Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Knighton Runs podcast. This is Coach Chris Knighton, and Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2023, and there's no better way to kick off the new year than talking about what's probably the most important thing, your health. Today we're going to be talking about proper nutrition for distance runners. What does that look like, and how can you incorporate it into your overall training to become the best runner that you can be in the new year? Nutrition plays a huge role in the health and performance of distance runners. It's not just in the hard work that we do that we reap the benefits and get stronger. We need to give ourselves proper recovery between our hard efforts to benefit from those hard efforts and actually get the benefits from training that we're looking to get. I think for most working adults, we don't necessarily have a hard work problem, especially if you're a dedicated, committed runner. We often have a problem with recovery. We don't have the right balance between hard work and recovery. And nutrition is one of the best things that you can do to improve your recovery between sessions. So that's what we'll be talking about today. The Knighton Runs podcast is brought to you by my training group, the Knighton Runs training group. If you'd like to get a training plan to follow for 2023, whether you're working towards a marathon, half, or shorter distance like me, the 5K, this year, you can go to patreon.com/KnightonRuns and join the training group. There's a couple of different tiers there, whether you just want to support the show, download plans, or get weekly check-ins from me. You can find that on our Patreon page. I'll put the link in the show notes. And I want to give a shout out to Helen and Mauve for joining the training group within the last couple of weeks. Thanks a lot. It really helps me bring this show to you and keep doing the work that I do, which I love so much. And I'm happy it's helpful for so many of you. I love the comments I get. All right, let's get into it. So proper nutrition for distance runners. Like I said, eating an excellent diet is one of the best things that you can do to ensure you get the recovery that you need between your hard sessions so that you can benefit from them. It's also arguably the most important thing you can do for your health for long-term well-being, staying healthy, avoiding disease, staying a healthy weight, these kind of things. So what's a healthy diet for distance runners? In general, distance runners are not that different from the general public and what you want to be looking to eat. However, there are certain things that you can do that are slightly different to have a more optimal diet as a distance runner. So you want to eat a well-rounded diet, rich in all the different macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. But when you look at how our bodies use fuel as distance runners, carbohydrates are the primary fuel that we use for moderate to fast running. For slow running, easy-paced running, once you get good at it, you primarily burn fat. And our bodies have a limited store of carbohydrates that we can burn through. A good rule of thumb is, you could run fast for about 90 minutes before you burn through your carbohydrate stores. This is why in marathons, and sometimes in half marathons, you need to take carb-rich gels throughout the race. And even on long runs, you want to do this to keep your fuel tank of carbs full so that you can keep running fast. You have a limited supply of those. But for fat, even the leanest runner, someone with a very low body fat percentage, you have almost an unlimited store of energy that you can burn as fat. The problem is our bodies can't fuel very fast running with fat. There is ways in training that you can teach your body to be better at burning fat, and this is actually a good thing. It helps spare your limited carbohydrate stores. So, often when we go for slow, easy, long distance runs, or medium long runs, for example, or even just everyday easy runs, runs significantly slower than marathon pace, in these runs, you're primarily burning fat as fuel if you keep the runs easy enough, and you are teaching your body to prioritize that in the easier runs when you do this. But you should know that no matter what pace you're going, your body is going to burn some fat and some carbohydrates, and the faster you go, the more carbohydrates you're going to burn and the less fat you're going to burn. To run your best in the marathon and under, carb restriction, I would say, is not the path you want to go. You'll sometimes learn about athletes being very successful where they talk about becoming very fat adapted and they run on a low carb diet. I don't think this is the best approach for the marathon and under distances. I think that generally this is mostly successful in the ultra marathon type distances where, to be honest, the paces you're going in ultramarathons are extremely easy because the distance is simply so long. So yeah, being well fat adapted is good if you're trying to run, let's say, 30 miles, 50 miles, or 100 miles, because you have enough fat in your body to fuel you almost indefinitely. But for fast racing, you don't really want to be restricting your carbs. So what ratio of carbohydrates and fat and protein should you look to get in your diet? Well, there's varying opinions on this depending on where you look it up. The USATF track and field coaching manual that I referenced for this says that distance runners should look to get about 70% of their calories from carbs, 15% from protein, and 15% from fat. So if you're kind of planning out your plates and your meals, if you sort of think about a 70 to 15 to 15 ratio, you're going to be in the right ballpark. Now, this is during heavy training. Your body's going to be needing these carbohydrates to fuel you. So that's why you want to have up to 70%. During periods of lighter training, maybe lower mileage or base building, you might be able to get away with lower amounts of carbohydrates, perhaps as low as 50% carbs. And your body type may prefer a lower range as well, from, let's say, 50 or 60% upwards to 70%. That could be a range depending on your body. Not everyone's the same. But I think the takeaway here is, for success in distance running, you need to be getting at least 50% of your calories from carbs, and perhaps as high as 70% when you're in heavy training. Now, what types of foods should you eat? I think it's universally accepted that eating unprocessed whole foods is the best way to go for optimal health. I've actually been vegan almost my entire life. And, based on kind of all of the research that I've done over the last 20 years into nutrition, seems to say that the more fruits and vegetables you can include into your diet, the better. I think that Americans in general don't eat very healthy. I think we can all probably agree on that. There's, a place in a healthy diet for junk food, for some processed food, for coffee, for alcohol, meat and dairy, gluten as well. But all these things tend to be less healthy than more whole food plant-based options. So the more that you can include of colorful fruits and vegetables, beans as a protein source, nuts and seeds and whole grains into your diet, I think the healthier you'll be. Athletes who restrict certain types of foods, for example, vegetarians, vegans, people on a gluten-free diet, people who maybe are allergic to dairy, you're going to have no problem at all being successful as a distance runner with those restrictions. I think, in fact, most people who tend to restrict certain foods, don't eat them, tend to be healthier than people who just eat a standard American diet, simply because they're actually paying attention to what they're eating and trying to eat healthy. No matter what you eat, there's probably going to be certain nutrients that you get a lot of and certain ones that you just don't, based on the types of foods that you like to eat. So it is important to eat a well-rounded diet, make sure your bases are covered with all the different nutrients, and don't be afraid to take supplementation, vitamins and minerals as needed to help complement your diet. I think that can be really helpful in certain circumstances. And I do that myself with a few important nutrients we'll get into in just a little bit. And I think it's important to note that there are really no bad foods. All foods can play a role in a well-rounded, healthy diet. I mean, even things considered typical junk food like donuts and potato chips can serve an important role in your diet. I mean, they can be easily digested, quick energy. They can get you, salt. Chips after a long run are delicious, right? Get you the salt, helps you rehydrate. A donut before a race isn't the worst meal you could have before the race. It's going to quickly digest, and if it works for you, it works for you. But in general, right, you want to try to be making sure that the vast majority of what you're eating is healthy, whole foods, and as many plants, colorful fruits and vegetables as possible. Now, it's important to recognize that as an athlete, you need more than your peers who are less active than you. The underconsumption of food is one of the most common issues that I face when I see athletes struggling. If you find that you're not recovering from your workouts, or that you're not improving the way you expect to be improving, take a hard look at how much you are eating and ask yourself if you're eating enough. I think if you're in the midst of a marathon training season or training hard for any race, you really need to make sure you're eating enough. It's not the time to restrict your food or try to diet or lose weight. When you're training hard, your body needs fuel. A rule of thumb is you're going to burn about 100 calories per mile. And, this is going to vary depending on your intensity and depending on your body type and how efficient you are and all that. But if you go out for a 5-mile run, that's 500 calories you need to replace. If you go out for a 10-mile run, that's 1,000 calories you need to replace. This can add up really fast, especially for athletes who are running higher amounts of mileage. You're going to need to eat extra meals in the day, or bigger meals in the day, than all the people around you who aren't running as much. You can't restrict the food you're giving yourself during heavy training and expect to recover, grow stronger, and improve. And again, don't try to diet and lose weight during a training season where you're trying to become a better athlete. Those two paths to these things are going in different directions. To lose weight, you're basically restricting the food that you're giving yourself so that your body will essentially starve and lose body fat, lose muscle, and lose weight. And as a distance runner, you need that fuel to repair broken down muscle that you beat up during a hard run, and make it grow back stronger and give you the energy you need to restore your carbohydrate stores between each run and be able to run your best. You can't do these two different things at the same time and expect to be successful. I will say, if you do want to try to lose some weight and you think that would help you become a better distance runner, it can be done while running, but you should plan this into your overall running schedule so that you try to lose weight maybe between seasons or before you begin to take on very serious, intense training. And just to touch on staying hydrated, distance runners, again, you're going to need a lot more hydration than your peers. When you run, obviously, you sweat. Even in the winter, you give off moisture, maybe sweat a little bit. You're going to need water. So water is the best way to hydrate for distance runners. And in general, you do want to try to just drink simply to thirst. There's a whole bunch of different electrolyte mixes and tablets that are on the market that you can add to your water to help make them be maybe a little bit more interesting in flavor. But you definitely don't need to use that. You'd be fine with just water and, the food that you eat either during and after your run. For some runs, you're going to want to bring water with you or plan your routes around known water stops. So maybe there's a bathroom you can stop into mid-run, drink water from the sink. Or maybe there's a water fountain in a park, and you can plan your run to hit that at certain locations. If you don't want to bring a water bottle with you, and I usually don't, you can also do loops. So you could set a water bottle in a certain location, maybe do a certain distance loop and come back to that location a bunch of times and drink from the bottle. But you definitely don't want to deprive yourself from water during your runs. Everyone's going to be a little bit different with what their comfort level is with this. For me, unless it's the summer when I'm really sweating a lot, I try to just avoid the hassle of drinking on my runs. I find that for me, if it's under an hour, I don't need to worry about water at all. If it's 60 to 90 minutes, it's probably going to depend on the temperature. I'll definitely need water in the summer, but if it's under 70 degrees, I'll probably be okay. But any run over 90 minutes, you really do want to try to get some water in. It's going to help you for sure. Something you can do, and I think is a good practice to get into, especially if you're not bringing water with you on your run, is just have a big glass of water before you head out the door and then as soon as you get back. And then on the topic of hydration, things like coffee, tea, alcohol, and soda, again, these can play a small role in your healthy lifestyle and diet, but don't think of these as hydration. Don't just have coffee in the morning and go out for your run. Drink some water too. Anytime you drink something other than just water or sports drink, don't count that as hydration. How much should you drink? Again, I mentioned you want to drink generally just to thirst. If you're not going to bring water with you on a run, it's a good idea to drink a glass beforehand, just to kind of top up before you head out the door. And then if you do that, make sure that you drink water as soon as you get back and never restrict water. It's a very outdated idea and a dangerous one to think that by making yourself go thirsty, you're getting any kind of training benefit from that. You definitely aren't. So if you have access to water and you're thirsty, drink it. Now, we talked a little bit about what an overall healthy diet looks like for distance runners. We kind of talked about the different macronutrient ratios, up to 70% carbs, 15% protein, 15% fat. And we talked about how to, what foods to eat in that diet, right? So mostly as many colorful fruits and vegetables as you can. And then, you can add in small amounts of less healthier foods as well. But the more fruits and vegetables you can have in your diet, the better. Grains as well, beans as well. And then small amounts of processed food, meat, dairy, can be okay in moderation, but definitely shouldn't be a large part of the diet. But there are 3 vitamins and minerals that I really want to highlight here that as distance runners, I think that we all need to pay extra attention to. And these are 3 things that if you have a physical coming up with your doctor, it's, I think, always beneficial to ask for a comprehensive blood panel that'll test for some of these things, just to make sure that you're in good health. But also as an athlete, you're going to have the levels that are optimal for you as an athlete. So the 3 things that I'm just going to touch on are calcium, vitamin D, and iron. So calcium and vitamin D go hand in hand. They're both essential for building strong bones. And as distance runners, we put a huge amount of pressure on our bones with every single step. One of the worst injuries that a distance runner can develop is a stress reaction, which can turn into a stress fracture, which could turn into a full-blown bone fracture. It's important to build a strong skeleton so this doesn't happen, and so that you can train as hard as you want to train without getting hurt. So obviously, a smart training progression plays a big role in this. Runners who've gradually built up their mileage over time and their intensity over time and not rushed into things, over time you will develop a stronger set of bones. And the way to help fuel this, one of the ways is to make sure you're getting enough calcium. So there's tons of different foods that you can get calcium from. You know, everyone always thinks milk, dairy products, but there's a huge number of other sources as well. A lot of different beans and lentils have calcium, almonds, plant milks, leafy greens like kale, spinach, and collards, rhubarb, fortified foods like cereals, edamame, tofu are the 2 different soy products. They have a lot of calcium. Chia seeds, as well as certain types of seafood like sardines and canned salmon can have calcium as well. So make sure you're getting enough. You know, minimizing your risk of injury is one of the best things that you can do to be a healthy runner and improve long term. So make sure you're getting your calcium. Pay attention to that one. And vitamin D is another one. It helps our immune system function effectively and can help reduce inflammation. And it can help our body absorb calcium as well. And a lack of vitamin D can lead to weakening of bones, which can put you at risk potentially of stress reactions or fractures as well, which we obviously don't want to get. So vitamin D is something that can easily be tested in blood panels. I've been deficient on it in the past myself. And on the research that I've done on this and what I've been told is that if you live in a northern climate, it's actually pretty challenging to get enough vitamin D naturally. Vitamin D is one of the only vitamins where the main way that we consume it, the main way we get it into our body is not actually from consuming it, not from eating it, but it's from just exposure to sunlight. Our bodies, when our skin is exposed to sun, create vitamin D. The problem with this, though, is extended exposure to the sun has its own set of risks to your skin health and cancer. And as someone with a personal history, family history, family members getting skin cancer, I'm personally very adverse to going out in the sun for extended periods of time. And when I do, I always cover up. So I don't think it's really advisable to seek out the sun specifically to get vitamin D. And if you live in a northern climate like I do here in New England, for a lot of the year, there's not really that much sun anyway to get the level of exposure that you need. I think vitamin D deficiency is extremely common in northern climates. And since it's not in a lot of foods, for many people, supplementation is going to be the best way to ensure you get a steady supply of vitamin D. There are some foods that have vitamin D, and many of them are actually fortified with it because of this known issue. So a fortified food is basically just a food where a supplement's been added to it. So it's very similar to just taking a vitamin D pill. It's not in there naturally. So orange juice and milk is often fortified with vitamin D. Both plant milks and dairy milks are fortified with vitamin D. Just check the label because they're not all. So if you're trying to get your vitamin D from beverages, just make sure it's in there. Don't assume. It's also fortified in some cereals. And then there are some food products that can have vitamin D in them. Certain types of mushrooms, certain types of seafood as well can have vitamin D, and egg yolks as well in some cases can have vitamin D in them. But it's really, in my experience, not a nutrient that you're necessarily going to get a lot of from the food that you eat, unless you really try to. So I personally just take a vitamin D supplement just to be safe, and that could be good advice for you as well. But be sure to talk with your doctor before taking any supplements. The last nutrient I wanted to talk about that's really, really important for distance runners is iron. And iron deficiency is known as anemia. It's one of the most common reasons why distance runners start to feel weak and run slower than they were used to. I think if you ever go through a period of subpar performances, you're just not doing as well as you used to do. Maybe it's harder to breathe. You just don't feel like you can go as fast as you used to be able to go. Maybe you just feel more fatigued or weaker. Your skin maybe could even be looking a little bit paler than it used to. These are all signs that you may be anemic. And if you're experiencing any of these things, I think the two things you want to look at that are related to nutrition, in my experience, are the first one is, are you eating enough? Are you fueling enough to actually run how hard and as much as you want to? And if the answer to that is yes, then the second question to ask yourself is, are you getting enough iron? And this can be tested by your doctor. You can get a blood panel done, and they can measure a couple different levels that are related to your iron to see if you are anemic. And if you are, your doctor can help you get on a supplementation plan to get your iron levels back into an optimal range. Now, there's maybe a bit of debate on this, but I've heard it enough from coaches I respect and read some articles on it where I think there's probably some truth to it. Distance runners, performance-based athletes, you may run significantly faster or significantly slower depending on where you are in what's considered the normal range of iron levels. So when you go to your doctor and you get your iron tested, there's always like an upper limit and a lower limit of what's considered healthy, right? Iron is a mineral that helps our body bring oxygen to our muscles to power our movement. And it seems as if you're, let's say you're low on iron, but not quite anemic, but you're kind of lower on the range, you may not be able to run as well and as fast as if you were higher up on that range. So just because you're not anemic doesn't necessarily mean that your iron levels, and there's a related blood level called ferritin, that just because you're not anemic doesn't necessarily mean that those levels are optimal for your best performances. For this kind of thing, you would want to talk with a qualified doctor who's experienced working with athletes to make sure that your iron levels are where they should be for optimal performance, because it seems as if there could be a range there, and it's not just like you're anemic and it's bad, and you're not anemic and everything's fine. Before you consider supplementing with iron, though, I would definitely recommend talking with your doctor, because it is possible, from my understanding, to overdo it on iron and have too much iron in your body, which can lead to some negative consequences. So you definitely don't want to overdo it with it. Now, there are some foods that you should be including into your diet to make sure you get plenty of iron. And the reasons why you need to prioritize these, like I said, having low iron can directly be correlated to a drop in performance, but also as distance runners, we need more iron than our less active peers. We actually burn through it faster than a normal person would. The actual act of running destroys some of the iron stored in our blood, and female athletes, as well, as I'm sure you know, will need to pay attention to making sure they're consuming enough iron due to their menstrual cycle. So sources of iron that you can include into your diet, beans and lentils are good, tofu, spinach, quinoa, dried fruits such as apricots, prunes, and raisins, broccoli, different types of nuts. Fortified cereals is a good one. We're giving that to our baby right now. Pumpkin seeds, and then certain types of meat, shellfish, red meat, and dark turkey meat can be good sources of iron as well. And then iron supplementation can be a good way to improve your iron levels at the advice of a qualified medical professional. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about timing your meals. Distance runners not only need to eat more than their sedentary peers, but you also are going to want to plan out your meals. What time of day do you eat them, and how does that relate to your training sessions and competitions so that you can feel your best when you're running? I think as athletes, we need to eat more. So it's probably good advice to eat smaller meals more frequently than, huge meals spaced further apart. Keep in mind that 70-15-15 ratio I talked about earlier, and make sure you're staying hydrated throughout the day. Even when you're sedentary, you want to be drinking, maybe a cup of water every day, every hour, and more if it's hot out. And we'll talk a little bit about guidelines for meal timing. So before a workout or before a race, you're going to want to have your last meal. Maybe this is breakfast, but maybe it's lunch if it's an afternoon event. Maybe it's even dinner if it's a nighttime race. You want to have this last meal 2 to 3 hours before your hard workout or your competition so that you have time to digest it and it's out of your stomach and you don't feel it during the hard workout or the race. You can have a snack between that last meal and competition, but I would eat it no closer than 1 hour before you begin training. That hour will be enough to digest a small snack. Post-workout, it is essential that you eat a snack as soon as possible after finished training, or you finish a race. You want to eat a snack within the 30 minutes ASAP. This is going to help jumpstart your recovery and give your body the calories and nutrients that it needs to jumpstart your recovery and make sure you're not in a depleted state for any longer than you need to be. So this is essential. Always do this. It's really, really important. And then after you have your snack, you're going to want to have a post-workout or post-competition meal. I will say within 2 hours of the end of that activity. So when you finish your race or finish your workout, if you feel up for it, just go eat a full meal right away. But if you don't want to eat right away or you can't eat right away, be sure you get that snack within 30 minutes. and then a full meal within 2 hours to help you recover and grow stronger from the hard work that you just put in. And then evening snacks are okay too, a few hours after your last meal of the day. I want to talk a little bit about some sample meals for distance runners. So as an athlete, you're going to want to figure out what are your go-tos, what are the meals that work well for you, that are easy to digest, that you enjoy, and that help you run your best. I've done podcasts and written articles about the importance of tune-up races before your big day. You can practice these sample meals in those tune-up races, and it's one of the many reasons why we do them, so that by the time you get to your most important race of the season, your marathon perhaps, you have this all dialed down. But here are a few ideas. These are some of the things that I like to do, and it will provide a good basis for what you could make your meals out of. So for a pre-workout meal, let's say this breakfast, okay? So 2 hours before your workout. This could be a morning race as well. So you're going to want to have water, 16 to 20 ounces of water, and then you do peanut butter on whole grain toast with fruit on the side, maybe a banana. Maybe that's like a bagel with peanut butter and a banana. Sometimes I like to do oatmeal instead of the bagel. Whole grain versus white grain. Often this is going to vary from athlete to athlete. The white grain will digest a little bit quicker. The whole grain will digest a little bit slower. Whole grain's potentially a bit more healthier long term, but white grain can be fine for athletes as well. Pre-workout snack. So maybe you go to your you're on the way to the track, or you're on the way to your race. Drinking a little bit of water is okay. Maybe you have a granola bar, banana, maybe a slice of white bread, something like that. That's easy to digest. You just want to make sure you finish your snack within an hour. So like 60 minutes before your event starts. Don't eat or drink anything within that 60 minutes if you can avoid it. During training and competition, this is it's a whole nother topic. I've written an article about fueling during marathons, and if you go to the accompanying blog post, Proper Nutrition for Distance Runners, I'll link it in the show notes. You can get a link to my article on consuming gels during your training and during your races. But sports drink and gels are two of the best things that you can drink during training and competition. Water as well. You definitely don't need sports drink. And it's going to help you replace the sweat that you're losing and keep your energy stores topped up to fuel you. A good rule of thumb for water, maybe 18 ounces of water during activity, but this is every hour, but this is really going to vary depending on your rate of sweat loss and the climatic conditions, how hot it is, that kind of thing. Make sure you're at least drinking to thirst. And if you're in a marathon, I always suggest getting water at every single aid station. Post-workout snack. So again, you want to eat this right away as soon as you finish your workout or your competition. This could be a smoothie that you prepared ahead of time, a protein shake, granola bar, a little box of milk or chocolate milk that you brought with you, maybe a yogurt or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you packed ahead of time. And then you want to have your post-workout meal within 2 hours of finishing your activity. And with this, you want to have some kind of low-fat protein source, whether that's beans, tofu, or healthy meat, perhaps. Get in some vegetables, get in a lot of carbohydrates. Whole grain pasta, rice, and bread are all good options. For evening snacks, some healthy options that are carbohydrate rich are low-fat popcorn. If you make it on the stovetop at home, just don't add a lot of oil and butter. And if you're making it microwave or buying it just in bags, make sure it's not like super greasy, cheesy, that kind of stuff. Toast and nut butter is always a good one. And cereal with your favorite type of milk is always a good option as well. And then one thing that I do want to mention is for a lot of athletes, the whole concept of eating around their races can be a source of stress. I've never personally had any kind of GI issues ruin a race for me, but I've often been stressed, maybe feeling like I need to go to the bathroom before a race starts. And I've had some athletes who I've trained who mid-race, their stomach turns, maybe they feel like they need to go to the bathroom, and it could, in some cases, it's ruined their race. I think the more that you can practice this stuff in training, what you eat, and not try anything new in the day of your most important race or in the days leading up to it, the more likely you are to minimize the chances of any kind of stomach upset or having to go to the bathroom affect your race negatively. There's a lot of different things you can try, and by practicing this, you're going to do your best. I had recorded another episode here on the Night and Runs podcast with Christy Bauman. Christy is a nutritionist and a runner herself, and she actually works with runners to help them learn how to better fuel themselves when it comes to their own running, how to eat around their races, how to eat during the races, and how to feel about it all as well. She does coaching for athletes in the nutritional space, and she has a whole bunch of courses as well. She actually shared a course with me that she put together called Fuel Your Run, which is a nutrition course that I took and really enjoyed, and I'll have a link to it in the show notes. If you want to kind of go deeper on this subject of how to best fuel yourself to become the best runner that you can be, there's nothing like actually talking with a professional about it. This whole podcast I'm recording, this shouldn't be taken as personal advice or medical advice. I'm not qualified to give that. These are just some of the things that feel like I've learned over the years coaching athletes and doing my own research about nutrition. But of course, you should do your own research as well, and always talk to a doctor or a qualified nutritionist or dietitian to get personal advice for you. So I can recommend Christy Bauman in her Fuel Your Run nutrition course if you're interested in taking that or chatting with her to go deeper on this subject. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Whew. All right, that was a lot. This was one of the longest episodes I've recorded in quite a while, but hopefully that was helpful as an overview for what proper nutrition will look like for you as a distance runner. Before I end today's show, I just want to give a shout out to Alex from the Night and Lions. Alex is someone who I've been coaching since the fall of last year, and it's amazing how much he's improved just in our limited time together. He's on an upward trajectory. Now that he's on good training, he's just improving from race to race to race, and I'm really enjoying working with him. On January 1st, he ran a half marathon in Seekonk, Massachusetts. It set a huge personal best. It was really cool to see. So I just want to give a shout out to you, Alex. You're doing a great job. You always pace these races super, super well as well. You're smart, dedicated, and just a shining example of the type of athlete who I love to coach here at Night and Runs. And you're someone to look up to for sure with the way that you carry yourself and go about your running. And that's going to be it for today. Thanks so much for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to grab a free downloadable copy of my book, Run Faster Marathons, The Proven Path to PR, from my website. You just go to nightandruns.com and you'll see the pop-up, or click the button to download my book for free. It'll be really helpful for you to kind of understand how a coach develops your training and what goes into the runs that you do if you want to plan your own training for the season ahead. If you're looking for a training plan, again, you can check out patreon.com/nightandruns. You can get all the training plans that I put together there. And I appreciate everyone who signs up for that. And if you enjoy the show and got benefit from it today, I'd love if you hit subscribe so you'll be sure to get the next one. I do publish one of these every week or two. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a review on your podcast listener platform of choice, whether that's the Apple one or Spotify or whatever it is, it really helps. It basically tells that platform to share my show with others who might like it. So it means a lot to me. Thank you for listening. I hope your running is going well. Hope you are keeping up with your New Year's resolutions. It's January 6th right now. I am keeping up with mine. And that's it. Have a good one. Bye.